Okay. I'm sharing my Google slide right now, guys. Can you please confirm if you can see it? Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Okay, very good. Sige, let's start with our discussion. So, welcome again to lesson 7 of our Information Assurance and Security 1. We will be talking about DNS, network and man-in-the-middle attacks. This is actually part of the domains in cybersecurity attacks. Now, we have discussed bitaw previously last week. So, this is just the continuation. Okay, so the topics under this one plainly, not plainly, but talks about attacks that happens in the network. So it would mean you need to have a basic foundation on networking so that you will understand this topics better. Okay, but you don't need to worry because if you don't have that quite knowledge on networking, the concepts for this one will be anchored to cybersecurity, man said. Okay, so you will still have the idea on how to understand it. Okay, let's start first with DNS. In networking, when you say DNS, it pertains about domain name server. Okay, so we're going to look at another attack which is called DNS attacks. And if you recall in your networking subjects, DNS is the translation service which converted human readable domain names to IP addresses. Okay, like for example, if you will go to google.com, the google.com domain name server has an equivalent IP address. Okay, so this specific attacks on DNS targets particular service on domain name servers, domain name service. Okay, let's try to talk on how does this works muna. Okay, so for DNS attack, we will be talking about DNS poisoning and spoofing. But let's try to understand muna like how does a DNS normally works. Okay, so let's say for example you have a corporate network and you want to go to google.com. If you look at the illustration, your corporate network is represented by this cloud, the blue one. Okay, so it's represented by the blue one, so that's your corporate network. And one of the computers would want to access google.com. Okay, so you basically need the IP address of google.com, which you don't know, di ba? Yung alam lang natin is yung www.google.com. Now, your local DNS server, which is, for example, part of your corporate network, it can request this DNS translations on behalf of all of the systems within the corporate network. So the way this works is that it sends a DNS request to the DNS server asking for the IP address of google.com. Now, the DNS servers have already this information. So they have already mapped this information in their tables. Can you look at the table? Okay. So they send you this IP address. So now your local DNS servers caches the IP address of google.com. Anong ibig sabihin ng caching? Ibig sabihin, they store the data for easy access or for access that will no longer require the same process of requesting and waiting for the reply of the DNS. Okay. Now, this local DNS server is interesting because it performs the translation once, and then all of the systems within your corporate network, they don't need to perform separate translations. Now, this provides efficiency and of course reduces the load. What does this mean? So for example, if nag-request ng on the first try itong PC number 1 papunta sa google.com, kumbaga, ang nangyayari is that in behalf of his request to access the google.com, ang gagawa dyan is si local DNS, itong local DNS natin. Okay? So siya yung magre-request. And of course, what you call this one, the DNS of google.com will reply na ito yung IP address ng google.com, ito yung gagamitin mo to access this one. But of course, you will not type this one. Okay? Yung gagamitin mo lang is yung domain name server lang or domain name ni Google. Now, for example, nag-request again si PC number 2 na gusto ko rin mag-access ng Google. Ang mangyayari is that it will no longer go to this part here, but rather it will just go to the local DNS. Kasi nga, naka-cache na yung IP address ni google.com. So instead of going outside your corporate network layer, ang mangyayari is that it will just try to access lang na ano yung available IP address na na-store natin about google.com. Yan na yung gagamitin niya. Okay? So with that kind of concept, nagiging efficient and of course, nare-reduce na yung load bitaw of requesting from outside of the network. Okay? So remember, the more baya na mas marami yung magre-request over outside your network, the more na magiging mabigat yung process or transfer of data from your network ay from the other network to your corporate network. Okay? Yan yung gustong ang tawag dito. Yan yung gustong i-reduce with the DNS. Okay? Yan yung gustong i-address ni local DNS. Now, how does this attack on DNS works? Okay? If you look at the illustration here, okay, if you notice, meron tayong mga red icons. And we also have red labels and red text. Those part are already pinpoints that there's something wrong or they are doing already spoofing or poisoning. So, paano ba ito nangyayari? Okay? So, once again, for example, you request or you send a request to the DNS server asking for the IP address of google.com. So, a malicious user, for example, or perhaps has eavesdropped on your communication line and he knows that you are expecting a translation for google.com. So what it does is that it sends, or that particular person, he sends a message masquerading as the DNS server. Ibig sabihin, nagpapakilala siya na ako yung google.com, ako yung magbibigay ng IP address. So instead of the IP address of google.com, which we know na 100.12.13.22, ang mangyayari is that you will get a fake IP address from that malicious user which you then store in your mapping table. Okay? Nakikita nyo ba yung problema na guys? Ang nangyari dito is that you tried to request on the first try the IP address of google.com and then someone is masquerading as google.com. Okay? So now your local DNS server has stored an inaccurate mapping of google.com. And this is basically IP address of that malicious domain. So instead of 100.12.13.22, ang binigay sa inyo is 111.111.111.1111. Okay? So that's already a big problem na dayon. So this means, or what does it imply man dayon? So now whenever any computer in your corporate network wants to go to google.com, they'll be obviously be visiting the malicious website which may have, for example, malware and all sorts of technical problems instead of accessing the correct one. So this is how DNS poisoning works, di ba? So there's someone who masquerades na, okay, so you are waiting pala for a reply from Google, ito yung gamitin ninyo. So ang nangyari is that instead na ito yung map ng inyong local DNS, ang na-map niya is itong address na ito. Okay? Again, the 111.111.111.111, it's not coming from the Google na DNS, it's coming from this malicious user here. Okay? Nakuha ba? Sige daw, be. Thumbs up daw if nakuha ba itong concept sa DNS na problem. Okay, but that's quite simple. Very good. Now, how do we prevent this one? Okay? So the first step is that you should always ignore DNS responses that were never asked for. Okay? So until and unless you have recently sent a particular request, don't accept replies talaga. Okay? The second tip is that you should always ignore as well DNS responses from malicious DNS servers. Okay? Malicious and of course suspicious DNS servers, which means that until and unless it is a DNS server which you trust, you shouldn't accept replies from there. Okay? Another technical related concept na you can also implement, or is already implemented na for this one, is what you call the DNSSEC or secure DNS. Okay? It basically leverages without the technique in public cryptography, yung na-discuss natin. So yung idea is that your public key cryptography is that the server or the DNS server itself, it publishes its public key. Okay, it publishes its public key in a digital certificate which you can download so that whenever you receive a message, you can use that public key to decrypt the message coming from the server. So until and unless it was the exact particular server which used its private key to encrypt, you won't be able to decrypt it with its public key. Okay? So this is how you really prevent this one. The third one is actually being used naman with the, what they call this one, improvement of network security. Ginagamit na itong secure DNS, in place na siya. So you don't need to worry guys, because for example right now, it's already being implemented. But of course you need to do your part. Okay, again, you are to ignore DNS responses that were never asked. You're also to ignore responses from suspicious or DNS servers. If you notice, bitaw, like for example, if you will be accessing bitaw a malicious website, meron nang binibigay yung mga browsers natin na warning. Di ba na, you are trying to access a malicious website based on the standards. Okay, I've seen that one being implemented by Google browser, like Google Chrome. Okay, so please always keep your browsers updated. Now, we have also here another DNS attack, which is what you call DNS reflection attack. Okay, so in this attack, the attacker basically uses server to bounce off his attacks. So the way it works is that an attacker sends a flood of DNS requests to a server using a spoof IP address. Kindly look at the illustration, Gali, kung ano yung nangyayari. What happens is that, di ba, we have the victim and then the red ones, they are those who are doing the reflection attack. Ang nangyari is that they imitated or they spoof, okay? They spoof the, what you call this one? The IP address of the victim. Diba? Can you look at the ano gali? Diba? Silang lahat is 102.1.11.4. Okay? That is not the correct or that is not the correct the normal nature of a particular network, diba? Like hindi kayo dapat same ng IP address. So ang nangyari dito is that what you call this one? Ang nangyari dito is that this red computers bitaw, or let's say for example, these botnets, okay? They requested something to the DNS server or to the DNS. And of course, yung reply ng DNS, it will not be provided to them, but rather to their victim. Diba? Kaya technically speaking, si DNS, yung magiging nature of process niya is that kung sinong IP ang nag-request, doon niya i-send yung reply niya naman. Okay? Imagine, for example, ito medyo maliit lang. Kaya di ba, we have only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? We only have 5 botnets that tawag dito, gumagawa ng DNS reflection attack. But imagine having thousands gali, di ba? So ibig sabihin, 1,000 requests, and then ang mangyayari is that isa lang yung magre-receive ng reply, di ba? So magiging kawawa talaga si victim. Okay? So he is obviously, for example, when the server responds to those DNS requests, he is obviously going to send a lot of reply messages, but those reply messages wouldn't come to the attacker since the server is going to use the spoof IP address, and he'll imagine that this is the IP address which requested me. Okay? So all of the replies will go to the victim, not to those who sent the request. Okay? So basically, ang ginagamit nila dito is multiple systems. Okay? Like perhaps the attacker sends the request to the DNS server and pretends that he is a victim. So basically, he puts the IP address of the victim as the source IP in all of the packets. So ang nangyayari dito is that when the server responds, he'll be sending flood of DNS reply messages to the victim, and this can overwhelm the victim or cause it to crash, okay? Or, choke the bandwidth network of the victim. So this is how DNS reflection attack works. Preventing DNS reflection, for example, you are already, you don't want to be a victim for this one. So this could be done by blocking the requests on particular DNS servers, or, if you're receiving a flood of DNS reply messages from a particular server, you could add rules to your firewalls and so on. So pwede kang mag-add ng blacklist or whitelist on that one. Okay? So again, ang concept ni DNS reflection attack is that your original IP address will be spoofed by a lot of computers, and of course, magre-request sila sa DNS, and in return, though their request will not be returned to them, but rather it will be sent to you. Okay? Ang mangyayari dyan is that ma-overwhelm ang computer mo or your network, and it will end up, for example, denial of service, or yung magiging mabigat yung load of service on your end. Okay? Like mahirap ka mag-access ng services mo on your end. Nakuha ba? Sige daw, be. May question ba for DNS reflection para we can proceed to the next one? Kung wala, give me a thumbs up. Okay, I think that's quite even by just looking at the illustration, I think it's quite simple. Okay, now let's go to the network attack. So we are going to have a look at the class of networks which can be categorized as network attacks because they try to overwhelm the network. Let's start first with the Smurf attack. Now, if you will try to look at the illustration, medyo similar sila sa DNS attack, di ba? Okay, look at this one. But yung sa kanila lang is that yung sa DNS attack natin, yung DNS reflection attack, they are on the application layer. Dito naman, they will be doing that one on the network layer. Okay? So, a Smurf attack is very similar to the DNS reflection attack that we have discussed previously. So, an attacker basically spoofed the IP address of the victim and sent a flood of DNS request messages to a server. So when the server replied with DNS reply messages, they were sent to the victim. And so the victim was overwhelmed in the Smurf attack. Okay? So the attacker basically sends a flood of ICMP. Ano ibig sabihin ng ICMP? ICMP is Internet Control Message Protocol or yung ping request bitaw using the victim's spoof IP address. Okay? So when the server receives these messages, it replies with the ICMP reply messages which are obviously sent to the victim because the victim's IP address was used. Okay? Now, anong mangyayari sa victim dito? Same lang din doon sa DNS reflection attack. It will be overwhelmed or the victim's computer or the computing system of the victim will crash. Okay? So the way it works is that using a botnet, for example, let's say for example, botnet yung ginamit ng attacker. Okay? It will send a flood of ICMP request messages to the server. Okay? Now, the ICMP echo request message will have the victim's IP address as the source address. So this is actually a spoof IP address na dayon. So naturally, when the server responds with its own flood of ping reply messages, it will send all of this to the victim, not to the botnets. Okay? Again, ang mangyayari dito is that the victim will be overwhelmed and of course, it can crash the victim's computing system. Okay? So yan yung ibig sabihin ng Smurf attack. Okay? It will try to spoof or replicate a particular IP address. And of course, yung mga botnets is that they will request they will send a lot of requests to the DNS server, but in return, hindi mapupunta sa kanila yung reply but doon sa victim. Okay? Sir, how do we know if we are being Smurf attacked? Usually, your network administrator bitaw will have the idea because they will have monitoring on that one. Like they can monitor that one over their network tools. Okay? So a Smurf attack can be considered as a variation of the reflected DNS attack, but at the network layer. So the DNS protocol worked at the application layer. So the reflected DNS attack could be classified as an application layer attack. Okay, whereas the ICMP ping messages, they work at the network layer. So that's why the Smurf attack is called a network layer attack. Kasi nga, yung sa kanila is that it's focused on the ICMP protocol. Okay? Internet Control Message Protocol. Nakuha ba? So, again, ang cost niya dito is that it can crash. It can, what they call this one? It can crash the victim's machine. And of course, it will be sometimes be difficult to detect because the IP address has been spoofed. Like, hindi alam kung ano yung original IP address na ginamit to spoof. Okay? So, it's almost talaga impossible to trace back which was the original IP, which basically sent these messages because all the sources of the IP in the packets if the ICMP, it's no longer the original IP of the attacker, but rather the IP address of the spoof victim. Okay? Nakuha ba? So that is actually the precise reason why a number of routers or domains on the internet, they already block the ICMP traffic. So for example, if you are to buy a particular router or avail a particular firewall services right now, by default na talaga yung ICMP traffic is already blocked. So for example, for internal networks natin, you can perhaps use an anomaly detection technique. Anong ibig sabihin nito? So for example, if you are the network administrator of your local network, yung sinabi ko bitaw last week na the first thing talaga to know when you are being attacked on a network level is to really create muna the, what you call this one, you need to identify muna what is normal para you can de-associate dayon the abnormal. Okay? So for instance, if you know that the baseline of your network, for example, in a day is 100 number of ICMP request messages, but on a particular scenario or on another day, you see a flood of this one, like maybe, for example, umabot na siya ng 2,000, maybe you can trigger a checking mechanism and you can verify, whether it's an attack or not. Okay? Again, yung Smurf attack natin will only be identified when there is a good observation using networking tools and monitoring systems by our network administrator. Okay? You also have here what you call a teardrop attack. Okay, the next attack is actually what they call this one. It's actually a interesting feature of the protocol. Okay, so basically what happens is that in every communication link in a network, it has a metric called the maximum transmission unit. Okay, now this specifies, or MTU. Okay, yan yung maximum transmission unit. Now, this specifies the maximum size of the packet that this link can handle. Now, please note that we are not talking about the number of packets muna. We are talking muna about one particular packet para you will have an idea. So basically, every link has an MTU or a maximum transmission unit which specifies that what is the largest size of the packet that this link can handle. Okay? So sometimes what happens is that when you send a packet from a source destination, your packet may arrive at a link which has an MTU which does not accept your packet size kasi nga medyo malaki ata. Okay? So ito yung nangyayari, like, okay? Now, please also remember that different links in a communication network can have different MTUs, and these are sometimes imposed by the technology used for the link and so on. Okay? So what it does is that if your packet arrives at the router and it knows that the next link does not support your packet size, what it does is that it fragments. Ibig sabihin, hinahati niya. Okay, it divides or fragments the packet into multiple packets, and it includes the information for reassembling them at the destination. Okay, so now these two packets independently travel to the destination where they are combined back again based on the information that is inserted into these fragments. So ano yung, di ba? Ito yung magiging diagram niya, guys. So ito yung, for example, malaking packet. And then since hindi kaya ni communication link yung ganito kalaki, ang nangyayari is that it divides it into smaller packets. Okay, ang term dyan is fragmentation. But you don't need to worry because during sa fragmentation process, it includes the information kung paano i-reassemble. Okay? So still, they will be, ang tawag dito, they will still be received by the destination entity na buo pa rin siya. So ano yung implementation or good example for this one? If you notice bitaw, like for example, if you send over a particular image over the network, di ba ga-load siya? Like if you have a, for example, a not so good connection, the fragmentation really, you can really witness that one in the Philippines kasi nga hindi masyadong okay yung signal natin. So the loading part bitaw, yung naglo-load yung image, that part there is actually the part where it reassembles the image, di ba? Okay, nagets nyo ba, guys? Thumbs up daw ba sa teardrop attack? Okay, so sir, where in that part is the teardrop attack there? Okay, so ang nangyayari dito is that the teardrop attack or the attacker that uses this kind of mechanism tries to exploit fragmentation mechanism of the IP protocol. Ibig sabihin, doon bitaw sa process ng pagde-divide ng packet, doon sila gumagawa ng attacking process. Okay? So basically what it does is that the fragments the packet incorrectly, and of course inserts incorrect information for offsets and fragment sizes with the hope that when the victim tries to reassemble these fragments based on the wrong information, it may cause problem to the victim or it can even crash. Okay? So ang ending dayon is that it will not receive the correct one, okay, the correct fragmented packet. Okay? Please note that although this is a basic attack, this is already considered as an old attack. Okay? Usually, yung mga affected dito is yung mga old operating system ng Windows, which is Windows 95 and NT. Okay? So if you have those operating systems in your organization, at least keep them patched or updated. Okay? Kasi nga, because with the modern operating systems right now, the modern implementations of the protocol stacks or fragmentation is that they have already solved this problem, and IP protocols just simply discards such packets if it does not provide a correct fragmentation na information. Okay? So, you don't need to worry about teardrop attack, guys, because it's already being addressed na sa mga modern technologies. Like, I think versions after Windows NT are already capable of resolving teardrop attack. Okay, and you don't need to worry about that one already. So, let's now go. Wait muna. Do you have a question for teardrop attack before I will proceed to the last one, which is the MIMA, man in the middle attack? Sige. Kung walang question, can you please give me a thumbs up? Okay, walang question. Very good. Let's now go to the man in the middle attack, guys. So, in this lecture, we are going to have a look at the man in the middle attack. So, this is perhaps one of the oldest, but still one of the most effective attacks in cybersecurity. Okay, so the concept is really simple between two legitimate systems. There is a man in the middle who is exploiting the relationship between the two end systems and all of the traffic. Okay, it passes through this man in the middle, and then he can copy or modify this information without the end systems being even aware of it. Okay, so let's try to have a more detailed discussion on this one. Okay, so technically speaking, it's man in the middle attack. It's a broad class because it poses a lot of different possibilities. So, for example, a man in the middle could just replay traffic and simply copy sensitive information such as, for example, browser session, password information, or even credit card information. Okay? So in this kind of mode, he is considered to be a passive attacker. Kasi nga, wala siyang ginagawa, kundi kinokopya lang niya. Like, may kinokopya lang siya. Okay? This information are considered to be sensitive. Okay? He is not modifying, diba? He's not actually modifying any of the traffic, and it is almost impossible to detect this kind of attacks because the attacker is not leaving any footprint at all. Okay, he's not modifying packets or IP addresses or anything. He is just simply copying information. Okay, now this type of passive attacks are much harder to detect and block kasi nga wala silang footprint na tawag dito, iniiwan. Okay, another possibility naman, or on the counterpart of the passive one is what you call the active one. Okay, so same lang din sila. There's a possibility that the man in the middle is replaying the traffic, and then after it also modifies the traffic in order to achieve anything. For example, yung active na man in the middle attacker can inject malware in the packets. He can even spoof IP addresses or many other things. But in this case, the attacker becomes active and the attacker is leaving a footprint, making it slightly easier to detect and then block it. Okay, again, there are two types of man in the middle attack. The first one is what you call, the first one is what you call the passive, like wala siyang ginagawa, nagkokopya lang siya. The second one is that ang ginagawa niya is that ang ginagawa talaga niya is that it replaces the traffic, but it injects something that is not okay. Like, it can inject malware or even spoof IP addresses. Again, we have passive, we also have active. Okay? We have here the next one. Okay. Next one naman is that we'll try to look at some techniques used by man in the middle. Okay, yung first natin is what you call IP spoofing. Okay? So IP spoofing refers to masquerading as someone else's using IP addresses. So basically, in your packet, if you can change your source IP address. You can insert whatever you want, and now that address will appear as coming from that actual IP address. Okay, so ang tawag dyan is IP spoofing. The second naman is yung DNS spoofing, which is also what was discussed earlier. Okay, so in this type, the attacker tricks users into visiting malicious websites thinking they are legitimate. Okay, so the basic idea, as we have discussed previously, was that an attacker sends a DNS reply messages with fake IP addresses or IP addresses which pinpoints to their domains. So basically, the user thinks that this is a legitimate domain, and when they visit that website, they actually are visiting a malicious domain. Okay, ano ba itong tawag dito? What is being ano man? Like, di ba? For example, bitaw, like a one upgrade bitaw of implementation sa DNS spoofing. Kay kindly notice na somewhat like magkakaparehas yung letter L na small tapos big letter na I. Okay, be very careful on that one. Be very careful of domain names that includes bitaw letter I and letter L. Yan yung napansin namin. Okay, like they will just they will replicate the domain, but then again that is a malicious domain na padayon. Okay, the third one is what you call naman SSL hijacking. So when you're visiting an insecure website on port 80, as we discussed previously, the HTTP protocol, meron yung dalawa, the HTTP and then the HTTPS. Okay? The HTTP is not a ang tawag dito, is not a secure port for navigating through a website. Bakit? Because ang nangyayari dito is that the connection between the client and the server will be in plain text, which you can make it very easy to eavesdrop or even steal information and masquerade it. Okay, so now what happens is that if you visit an insecure versions of the website is going to automatically redirect you to port 443, which is HTTPS. Okay, so ano yung nangyayari dito sa SSL hijacking? I'll give you an example as a Facebook. I don't know if you have noticed this one, but for example, if you will access bitaw a link sa Facebook and then it will redirect you to another one bitaw, like another web page. See, Facebook is already good at this one because they already provide you with a warning. Now you are trying to leave Facebook domain, and there might be some like Facebook will not guarantee any that the link that you're trying to access is safe or okay, di ba? Nakatry mo na wala. Try nga natin, Dave. Thumbs up daw if you have tried that one. Like really, Facebook provides you muna with a warning. They will provide a warning especially if the website you're trying to access is quite malicious, like may problema. Thumbs up daw, babe. I forgot to have a screenshot on it. Like, nagi sila iingon din nga, you are trying to leave Facebook, blah, 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 blah. Nakatry ba? May nakatry ba dito? Thumbs up daw, babe. Meron ba nakatry na you are being warned na you are leaving Facebook and you're trying to access this particular website? Parang wala. Okay, sige. Now, we have here the last one, which is what you call email hijacking. This one naman is that a malicious user somehow gets access to an email account and then silently monitors it, and at an appropriate time, he crafts a fake email to, for example, they can send an email to bank posting as the customer. Okay? So in this type of attack, the attacker is observing the email account and communication process and techniques in order to learn more information to launch a sophisticated attack. Okay? So, ano yung pinaka-common or pinaka-recent implementation of email hijacking? Sige daw, Be, give me a thumbs up if meron na kayong nabasa sa Facebook na nag-report or meron na kayong experience bitaw na an account was being hacked by someone and yung ginagawa nila is that magme-message sa inyo tapos they will try to imitate the way you call other people. Like for example, lugar, na-hack lugar ang account lugar ni, let's try to see. I'll give an example. For example, na-hack ang account ni Alexis, and then this attacker or this hacker will send a message to Benjo. And then kung ano yung pagkakatawag bitaw kang Benjo pagkakatawag ni Alexis kang Benjo, gagayahin din niya. Like for example, yung okay, Benjo lugar. Benjo, almost ako og GCash. Have you read those kind of incident na nahack ang account and then the attacker will try to contact everyone and then katong yung mga taong magiging victim nila will really send GCash. Have you heard about that one? Sige daw, thumbs up daw tayo. Ayan, meron daw tayo kang Emma, si Jake din. Okay? Di ba? They will really try to scout the way you converse with people. Okay? That's what you call hijacking. But on our end lang is that conversation hijacking lang yun. Yung binigay sa atin na examples, email hijacking. Okay? Sige. So how do we prevent MITM? Paano ba siya ipe-prevent yung mga man-in-the-middle attack? Okay? So how do we to prevent it? The first one is yung sa technical muna natin. Okay? So for wireless access point, you could always use strong encryptions such as WPA2, which makes sure that you know the communication between the client and the wireless access point is encrypted. Okay? The second one, similarly, for wired networks, you should always use secure mechanisms such as VPNs for remotely accessing your backbone corporate network. Now, VPNs or other similar mechanisms, they create a secure encrypted tunnel which makes your end-to-end communication secure, making it very hard for people to insert themselves in between the communication and acting as man in the middle. And as you should always use, by the way, yung VPN bitaw, do not use VPN that are free in the market. Kanitong free bitaw. Kaya remember, wala talagang free talaga guys in our current situation right now. If you will be using free VPN services, ibig sabihin yan may kapalit dyan. Either they will be able to track your location, they will either have the details of your network, and of course, that will be prone to a network problem. Okay? Now, si VPN, bakit siya quite secure? Or bakit siya ginagamit as a method in in creating a secure connection? It's because it doesn't use your own IP. Ang nangyayari dyan is that it uses, di ba, I don't know if you have tried using VPN. They will be, like for example, I will use VPN right now. I'm in the Philippines, but for example, if the VPN service provider is from New York, yung IP ko is no longer tagged as Philippines, but it's already New York. Okay? That's one feature of VPN na medyo talaga okay. Okay? And also, with VPN, usually, systems that are in place using VPN cannot be accessed not unless you will also be using a VPN connection under it. Okay? Like you cannot really access as well. Now, the third one is that you should always check or communicate or use only links with HTTPS instead of using HTTP. Remember, yung sa HTTPS, they do encryption end-to-end. Sa HTTP, they are just doing it in a plain text. Okay? That is really a problem na dayon in communication. Okay? The last one is that you should always use authentication mechanisms, and you should leverage yung concept ng public key cryptography, because oftentimes the client and the server, they don't have a mutually shared private key. So that's why you can leverage public key cryptography to initiate communication. And then that's the time that you can communicate. When the communication is done, you have a secure tunnel na dayon. Okay? So you can obviously move on to using private key na if you are done with using the public key cryptography. Okay? Questions muna for man-in-the-middle attack. Again, you have two. Active and then the passive. Si passive, wala siyang ginagawa, mahirap siyang i-detect kasi walang footprint. Si active naman is that it will really try to inject something, okay? Or do something that will harm the receiving end, okay? Okay, questions muna for man in the middle. Meron bang question? Okay, kung walang question, give me a thumbs up daw guys, be. Okay. Wala daw question. Sige. I will now end the recording and I will now proceed to our next agenda, which is our short quiz. Okay. I'll be giving you guys